What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for December 18th, 2023. 3.22 is now live. The Replication Layer is coming in a 3.22.x patch, but was open for testing this weekend, and Jared shared the roadmap for the next year or so. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week and put it into one video while sharing some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And you guys have been stopping by and being really awesome. Keep it up, guys. I really, really appreciate it. Makes my heart warm. Last thing, again, we got the Answer the Call podcast becoming its own channel. Link at the top of the description. Get subscribed there. The first videos are going to be coming out at the beginning of the year. I decided not to post all of them because I think it would hurt the algorithm pretty significantly for when we actually go live. So I'm going to hold off on that for a little while. But yeah, we have a ton to get through, as you can hear from the intro. So let's start out with patch updates. Now, we got two PTU updates this week starting on Monday. It was a pretty small one where they made some balance changes to the bikes, removing their shields altogether for most of them. I'm not surprised this one. The idea behind bikes are they're either racers or they're really fast and stealthy. They can't also be taking shots or tanking shots, right? And then they polished the broken landing gear on the Santokii, but newsflash, this is not fixed. They also attempted to fix two major bugs, one with tractor beams, where you're interacting at the same time, two different players with a cargo box or an object, as said in these notes, and it basically breaks that box for everyone. This didn't fix that bug. There might have been some sort of a crash associated with this as well, but on live, this bug still persists. Another one that they went to is, if you've ever done any mining or multi-tool mining or anything, this actually used to affect everything with the multi-tool or mining in general. When you would power it up, it would kind of stutter. Looks like they finally got that one, so that's really good. Then PTU, they did a polish pass on some of the settlements and added mining equipment to them, but everyone that has a QT marker that I went to didn't have any mining equipment at it, so I don't know which ones they're at. Leave a comment down below if you know, but I don't. And more polish to structural salvages VFX. And then they removed a few ships from the rental shops, and also they fixed the reclaimer not really landing correctly. It kind of was falling through the floor a little bit. And then 3.22 went live, and this is obviously the culmination of all the PTU patches that we had, but they put together a nice little post that highlights a lot of the major features. All the finer details that we've discussed over the last few weeks will be in the detailed patch notes on Spectrum. Links for those will be in the description down below. But they started out with structural salvage, which is the next step in the progression for salvage, where you completely break ships down into construction materials for now. RMC is valued much higher than construction materials, but it takes much longer to do. There are also new larger cargo containers that the reclaimer can create, and the new buffer cargo that allows you to store much more than one SCU at a time before needing to create a container. There's a whole guide on their website sharing exactly how to take part. If you really need help, go to that guide first. Then derelict settlements are another highlight. Again, there are 15 of them, some with QT markers, some without. Some even have shops and commodity kiosks. They also have dusters. If you guys are not familiar, it's a AI faction, and it has their new armors that were shared at CitizenCon. But these are barely in. They don't even work in space. It's a weird situation where they're like in, but not really. And then there's 20 new hairstyles, the first 20 that they shared at CitizenCon, with more to come in the future. Starting on December 22nd, Jumptown is running again, this time at new locations. Hurston is on an island. They have it there. Microtech is in a big forest, but they only mentioned Hurston in this post, so not really sure if some of them are turned off. We'll have to see on the 22nd. Personal cargo containers are a progression step from what we had before. You can now buy between 1 and 8 SCU containers, and they lock to cargo grids of ships. So it's not like where you blow up a ship anymore and those never really lock to the grid and slid all over the place. This makes everything like you can actually organize your inventories or trade with people a little bit easier. It's really nice. And then Arena Commander got a huge update with new modes coming to the experimental mode. Awesome new maps using settlements and multi-crew Arena Commander, along with Master Modes testing with some more ships like the Vanguard and more. PvPers who live in Battle Royale are really upset as well. They removed some of the modes, one being Battle Royale, the most popular one, to populate other modes that need more feedback, and they are not happy about it. If you're one of those people, leave a comment down below and let me know how you feel. But in general, it's a testing environment. I think they really want people to try Squadron Battle, and I get it, but at the same time, people are a little bit too mad. And then there is a Luminalia contest going on, and it is an Arena Commander contest. This one's pretty simple, and it sort of leaked the live date for the patch because there's a giveaway, and it was supposed to be on the 15th, so the patch was obviously going to go live on the 14th and not stay in the PTU. Basically, members of the community team will be playing a few matches at these allotted times, and if you come in the top 3, you win an X1 during those matches. And you can only win an X1 once. And then this one's funny. The Scorpius Antares, instead of making the co-pilot seat like cool for its job, you're allowed to use missiles with it. While this does make the seat more viable, it does. Missiles are pretty basic as well, like, you know, just kind of right and left clicking. So it largely doesn't improve the ship. And it also doesn't change the fact that they released this cash grab ship in the first place, right? Power creepy, cash grab. It was never good, and this is never going to make it better, right? It needs a lot more, or needs to not exist. And then the tech preview channel, Replication Layer testing is happening, and this one, again, was pretty simple. It's a 322 build with some servers having Replication Layer turned on. I happen to be on one of them, and we were tasked to just do whatever while CIG collects data. My experience with Replication Layer didn't go so well. I 30K'd and was hoping to see the server stall and recover, but it actually, the recovery thing isn't turned on, so not sure what info they were gathering, but the experience for us, the player, is not what we should be expecting for the release in the future. So if you are Replication Layer testing and it doesn't feel right, there's a reason for it. And that's what we had for patch notes this week. Let's move on. We did get a roadmap update. And for Roadmap Roundup, they started out with some really exciting news. And it's that 322 is going to have that replication layer test. And this may not sound like that big of a feature, but it is. So in case I didn't make it very clear in what we just talked about, this is going to resolve server crashes for us. It basically will stall and hitch a little bit, and then a new server will spin up, and we are never sent to the menu. Our progress isn't lost. All that stuff. It's very, very important. And I said 322 for a reason. This is, again, kind of going back in history a little bit, because this happened before the replication layer actually went into testing for us. They said it would be in 322. So before 322 went live, people thought that it was like gonna happen there, but it's gonna go live in a 322.x patch. And I think this is really good for the player base, because 322 is pretty stable on the live build, and we're going to have that stable build through the holiday, which is going to be really nice, and then we can come back for what is a not stable build and replication layer testing and server crash testing and all that stuff when we get back from the holidays. So we're going to have a nice patch over the holidays and something to look forward to on the testing front when we get back. And then structural salvage and cargo containers have passed their final review, as you can tell, because they're in the patch. And then all vehicles for the patch are also passed. And yeah, this is basically the last piece of the puzzle, were these vehicles to get this patch live. Now with that, let's move on to some video updates. And we'll start out with Inside Star Citizen shipping out. And they start out with the ship sale stuff, and there are 3 new ships. The Santokai is a medium Xi'an fighter that is supposed to lack a bit of firepower, for more maneuverability. The X1, which is a very speedy bike and is a ton of fun. It fits like everywhere as well. Thing is cool. And then the Cutter Rambler, which is the cutlass steel of the cutters. Drake ships, man. I don't get it. It has a larger interior and a larger fuel tank. Okay, don't get me wrong. I love interiors of Star Citizen ships, but I think that's what makes Star Citizen, but a whole variant just for that is a little odd for me. And then Jared goes completely off script and starts announcing what is coming in the first half of next year, starting with master modes.
Now, without talking specific dates, let's discuss what's being targeted and currently on track for release in just the first half of 2024, starting with Master Modes, the new way to pilot and operate ships we've been discussing since CitizenCon 2952. Now, whether that's every ship or a staggered rollout of groups of vehicles depends on how work progresses, but it's a major change to the way spaceships operate in the persistent universe, and you can be sure that we'll update on it more when the time comes.
Now, this is such a red flag for me because he stated that we might not be getting all the ships with master modes. So this is looking like a situation where they say it's released when it's in like Arena Commander or something, because that's the only way I see there being ships that some have master modes tuning and others don't, because how would that work in the PU? It just wouldn't. And then next, this one isn't that big of a surprise to me, but maybe it would be to you.
And of course, when your ships aren't in flight, they can be stored in the newly persistent hangars that are arriving with freight elevators, freight kiosks, and the new cargo transaction system that we've shared on both ISC and this year's CitizenCon. Now, all combined, they form the next major evolution of cargo careers and will also have far-reaching, broader implications for the entire Star Citizen experience.
Now, maybe I'm crazy, but I expect this one to happen within the next 6 months, and I don't think it will be perfect, of course, and we will see how a lot of this manual labor stuff in the community and how they will deal with it, I should say. And this will be one of the features that probably requires the most feedback and iteration as time goes on, since it's really important and really involved. Most of the FPS improvements we saw at CitizenCon are slated to make it in as well. Even the misfire stuff, which I think is pretty neat. Also, updates to the characters like EVA, loot screens, and player interactions, and the character customizer are all planned for the first half of next year. The next two, I'm really skeptical about.
And then, of course, if you're in-game, there's also a little thing called Mobiglass and an awfully big thing called Star Map. They're both getting their big updates in the first half of next year. And have I mentioned those enormous distribution centers that'll be the new microcosm homes for every gameplay and mission feature that exists in Star Citizen, as well as the 4, 5, 6, let's just say several new and updated vehicles that are making their way to the persistent universe in just the first 6 months of 2024? I did, just now.
I think that the star map from everything that was shared at CitizenCon seemed like the most unpolished, even though it did have quite a few cool features, and missing features as well. Compared to nearly everything that they showed at CitizenCon, it just didn't seem right. So I always expected it to be much further away than most things that we saw there. And then they also showed those massive bunkers, which seemed like a huge long shot as well. And then they touched on Pyro.
That's where the new preview channel comes into play. Now that said, Alpha 4.0 is currently targeting a summer 2024 release, but that won't mean that you have to wait until then to play it or learn more about it. That's because in 2024, we'll continue doing playtests like the one we just completed, and you'll be able to follow along with its development firsthand on the preview channel. That's the planets, moons, space stations, settlements, and outlaw lifestyle that comes within the Pyro system, but also an entire host of additional new features, content, and quality of life improvements like, fully functional jump points, the new quantum travel system, new vehicle HUD and MFD work, resource management, hacking, and much, much more, all being worked on in tandem.
Guys, he just said a date for Pyro and server meshing. It seems like a really bad idea to do that, but all that aside, they are going to be using the preview channel a lot for Pyro, and that's the best thing they could possibly do, and the preview channel, period, is the best thing they've done in a really long time, and I really Love this. Then moving on to Star Citizen Live, titled AI for You and I. I watched this and I didn't hear a whole lot of new things. Yes, the servers cause the AI to be bad. Yes, I want AI blades. Yes, they're working on creatures. There you go. Moving on to other updates. And as always, we start out with a sneak peek, and I legit had no clue what this thing is. It looks like a punching bag, and then I posted it on Reddit, and people kind of figured it out quite quickly, and it appears to be cargo container plushies, because the cargo company's in the back and the plushie nature of them. And then Star Citizen 322 ships. We had a sale for each ship, and no need to go into detail because ISC did. But basically, starting out with the Santokai, it's maintained its $220 price tag, which is surprising because most ships go up, but it's also very expensive to start with, right? And then it has 3 pretty cool paint options. Then the X1, which has 3 variants, plus some cool paints as well, comes in around $40. And be aware, I think $40 is the minimum for ships now because that's actually the baseline to count as a referral. So I don't think they ever really go below 40 anymore. And then the Rambler, I'm not sure why it exists still, but here it is, and it's $45. Cutters look like sci-fi ships, gotta love it. But also, you got to ask why with this one, right? And then community lore questions. I'm only going to include 2 of the questions and answers, as most of it doesn't really apply to the game as much. The first one is even a stretch for that, but hear me out. They asked if there's any systems that humans live in that we don't know about. And the answer was kind of no, but there is a system called Oratani that is closed off from us as the jump point collapsed. So they are leaving the door open for a cool storyline at some point where maybe explorers can search for that jump point and find out the story of what happened to these people. Like, pretty much every sci-fi universe has this trope of like the colony ship that disappeared. This can kind of be that. And then the second one is about Nyx, which will have rest stops, and they aren't saying anything concrete, but they don't see why it wouldn't have them. For those of you guys that know, Nyx used to be in the game, and it didn't have any rest stops. It was just a planet that had a cool landing location that was also really laggy. It was called Levski. We called it Lagski. But yeah, it will be not that lawful, but it will be much more lawful than Pyro, and while still having more of that scrappy Pyro look, because that's kind of their nature. So we did have previous patches that we were able to access Nyx, but no longer. And guys, that will do it for this week. This is going to be the last meaty week of Star Citizen news, and I'm really, I guess, blown away. They have kept it up since CitizenCon really, really well, and we do have what seems to be a stable December patch, which is the first time in years. So I hope you guys all enjoy, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So if you did, make sure you leave a like on this one, comment on anything that we discussed today, and yeah, subscribe for more weeks in review. Check out all the links down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the Answer the Call podcast channel. And guys, I'll see you next week, but I have no idea what we're going to be talking about.